Hello everyone, my name is Aaron Woodman, and I want to welcome you to my YouTube channel. In this video, we will talk about letting go of controlling other people's thoughts and feelings. This is important because dealing with conflicts does not involve controlling people's reactions, but instead letting them react and you choosing how you want to engage with their reactions. To disagree well, you have to give up on trying to control what the other person thinks and feels. It feels hard to do this at first because in our minds, we want someone to react in a certain way that feels convenient to us. If someone gets angry, sad, or nervous, you might feel inclined to get them to stop feeling that way for both of your sakes. But given that everyone has autonomy with their emotions, we need to focus on our own reactions since that is the only thing we can fully control. Plus, if we try to control someone's emotions too much, we are not able to get at the root of why they are feeling a certain way and what their mindset is. To let go of this control, you need to let the person know they have a choice to freely express their thoughts or not, and that you will not force them to make a choice. But if that person does express their thoughts, then you need to actively listen to them all the way through. This shows you are treating the person with consideration and respect. When you are talking with someone, you do not want to try to dominate the conversation. When you dominate, you are actively trying to control the situation and pressure someone to speak when they might not want to. You should not do that. Instead, you need to know when to be sympathetic and when to be direct and forthright. When you let someone make their own choices on how much they want to share in a conversation, they are likely to feel comfortable with you. When someone gives their viewpoints on something, you do not want them to become defensive. Someone becomes defensive when you make them feel judged or told to feel differently. In a defensive state, a person will then give reasons why they will not change their mind and continue to stand by their position. That means the person will be closed-minded and unwilling to listen to what you will say. Rather than insisting on change and instigating confrontation, you should focus on building a relationship of trust and mutual understanding. You should let the other person be allowed to talk through their experiences without ever feeling the need to defend their choices. Eventually, they will begin making the arguments for change themselves. Then, because that person has reached their own decision rather than acting on your instruction, the person will be much more motivated to change themselves. If you think about it, it is much better for someone else to realize they need to change their minds instead of you saying that. If you tell someone they are wrong, then that person will immediately become defensive. If you truly believe they need to change their minds, then you need to let them change their minds and let them make that choice. When you see someone go through a problem, you can have this immediate instinct to fix them by correcting them or showing you are right. Again, this goes back to this desire to dominate the conversation in your relationship with the person. For example, if a child tells their parents they are tired, but the parents dismiss their tiredness by saying they are sleepy from napping, that conversation ends up turning into an argument because the parents are explicitly telling their child that their perceptions of being tired are wrong. This will end up making the child more adamant in arguing they are tired. Many adult disagreements are like this too. Confronted with someone we think is in the wrong, we desperately want to correct them. This is called righting behavior, and we usually engage in it with sincere intent. But try and recall a time when you were you being told off, or someone was explaining to you at length why you are wrong about something. How did you feel? You probably felt annoyed or even humiliated, as if the other person was trying to order you around or squash you. That is why we often push back even when we know the other person is right. In fact, the more right they are, the more we push, and the other person in turn reciprocates. The result is a conversation that either escalates into a full blown tense tone or shuts down. After all, you stay defensive and do not want to admit you are wrong because it will feel like you got defeated and lost an argument. That is why we cannot resolve conflicts and disagreements by trying to win and make someone lose. It has to come from a place of understanding and learning from a situation. Still, this goes back to the point of figuring out why we insist on telling people how to feel, for the same reason that we are overconfident in our powers of rational persuasion. We find it hard to accept that other human beings have minds as real and as complex as our own, being aware of the writing behavior is not the same as avoiding disagreement. It means not getting to the disagreement too soon before the two of you have had a chance to understand each other's position. Neither does it mean giving up on right and wrong. Crucially, it requires you to put aside the belief that you can control the other person's mind with your words, not just the belief, but the wish. You have to approach the disagreement not as a threat to fend off, but as a collaboration from which both of you might gain something useful. After all, there is usually something to learn from a person with whom we are disagreeing with, and some truth to what they are saying. It is also true that the other person is probably less certain that they appear, that there is an element of oblivience to their beliefs, some tension or contradiction that can be teased out as long as they are not too busy defending themselves. It is probably true of you, too. If your interlocutor does not wish to cooperate in any way at all, there may not be much you could do about it, but at least you won't get pulled into a draining conversation. By resisting the writing behavior and instead actively listening, you send the signal. That you are interested in learning from someone's perspectives, not dominating the conversation. That relaxes the other person, which also relaxes you. The two of you may still vigorously disagree, but you will be treating each other as equals, which changes everything, even minds, even your own. Now, let's say there is a person you are talking to who is staunchly attached to a belief that is obviously, unequivocally, and wildly wrong. Isn't it important you tell them so directly at the first opportunity? Let's say someone seriously believes in a conspiracy theory that is false. Should you let them believe in a conspiracy theory and hope they will change their mind instead of telling them to not believe in that conspiracy theory? It is a good question to think about because having so many people believe in a conspiracy theory has serious ramifications for our society. For example, the so-called anti-vax movement, made up of those who oppose vaccinating children against infectious diseases, is making it more likely that diseases like measles, which have previously been eradicated in developed nations, will reemerge. When we hear someone believe in this kind of conspiracy theory, we could call them delusional. But still, how do we deal with them? Let's look at a clinical psychologist, Dr. Emmanuel Peters from King's College, London, who specializes in therapy for patients with psychotic delusions. These are false beliefs that make it difficult for them to conduct their lives. To be clear, disbelieving a widely accepted scientific fact or believing in a conspiracy theory about the moon landings is not the same as being psychotically deluded, but as it turns out, it is not completely different either. More often than not, clinically delusional beliefs are paranoid, where the patient might believe that everyone they pass in the street is part of a secret plan to destroy them, or that the patient is receiving coded messages from outer space about a forthcoming attack. Other patients have more positive or grandiose delusions, which can nevertheless be debilitating, like a man who believes he is a king who will one day inherit a fortune and has therefore never bothered to make any income and now finds himself on the edge of destitution. Delusional people come to see therapists not to have their delusion cured, since they do not believe it is a delusion, but because their beliefs are making the world a stressful, difficult place. Somebody who is convinced that the government has put a contract out on their life may find it scary to to leave the house to go to work or visit the shops. The therapist's first job, says Peters, is to understand what that feels like. She says, quote, "The right attitude isn't, I must get this person out of their misery by showing them that they are wrong. It's, I must understand where this person is coming from," unquote. That is, they need to start with where they are at. Dr. Peters said that some mental health professionals feel the need to tell delusional patients how things really are. Quote, "That person in the park who spat on the ground, of course he wasn't sending a signal to you, he was just spitting. There is no vast conspiracy, this is all in your head," unquote. They soon find out that doing that puts them in defensive mode. The patient has endured months or years of people telling them they are wrong. They have been told they are crazy. They have heard it all. They're not going to change their mind suddenly just because a doctor is telling them the same thing. Dr. Peters said, quote, "The moment you try to change the belief, they push back. If you go in head on, you won't be able to help them because they will spend all their time trying to convince you otherwise," unquote. Instead, Dr. Peters suggests putting yourself on the patient's side so that the therapist makes it more likely the patient will listen to the therapist's suggestions. Gently, over time, Dr. Peters tries to reduce the patient's certainty in their belief. Wherever there is a glimmer of doubt, she works with it, inviting the patient to consider the evidence for and against the belief. Instead of saying a specific thing does not exist, Dr. Peters would help the patient think about an alternative explanation to why something happened that is less antagonistic. Now, of course, our everyday conversations are not therapy sessions, but if you encounter someone saying a conspiracy theory and you decide to engage with them, then it is important to consider this psychological context on how to effectively deal with them. It is really about letting the person say what they believe in, asking them why they believe in it, and let them think about how sure they are in their beliefs about a conspiracy theory. You should not expect someone to immediately change their minds about a conspiracy theory after one conversation with them, but the more control the other person has in their thoughts to really think about the conspiracy theory and to see a different side of it, the more likely it is for them to open themselves up to changing their minds. Otherwise, calling someone delusional or crazy will just make someone more determined to assert themselves and defend their beliefs in a conspiracy theory even more. If you are not ready to engage in a conspiracy theorist, then leave them alone. Like other people in positions of authority, doctors are exposed to more disagreements than ever. Patients come armed with information they have read online and expect to have a say in any decisions. The spread of anti-vax beliefs presents the medical profession with a particularly tough challenge. In the United States, where the anti-vaccination movement is widespread, public health officials have learned to distinguish between hardcore conspiracy theorists and those who are uncertain in general. For the latter, the best strategy is to take their concerns seriously, listening properly and winning their trust rather than taking on the belief directly and having them turn against you. This does not mean you have to personally accept someone's beliefs, but to get to the bottom of why they have those beliefs. Again, in general conversations with people, when we meet someone who are or who we think is deluded, or even just someone with whom we strongly disagree, we want to force them to change their beliefs. By attempting to do so, we only make the other person want to stick with their beliefs instead of being open to change their minds. You should approach the conversation without trying to control the other person and let them freely engage with you. That way, they are more likely to see things your way, and you are more likely to learn something. You also help free your own mind when you focus on controlling yourself. In the next video, we will talk about understanding cultural differences in terms of knowing how this plays into handling conflicts and disagreements. Until then, please like this video, subscribe to my YouTube channel, and turn on the post notifications so you will be notified when I post my next video. I appreciate your support. Remember, you are powerful, you are capable, and you are the changemaker our society needs. Thank you so much for watching this video. I will see you soon.